Ding dong, mother scratches. Happy Tuesday. Was it Tuesday? Excuse me. Wednesday/Thursday. Excuse the hat. Mr. O'Neill has a bad case of bedhead. And, quarantine, I just didn't feel like putting the dippity do in it. You know how I do. You know how I like to do it up. So it's a bit of a mess today. So you have to excuse the bedhead and the fuzz on my face. I haven't shaved in 15 days now. So my mustache starting to look like David Haydoux or Paul Nance. All right, children. Today we're going to talk about the 1960s and the Cold War. We talked quite a bit on Monday and Tuesday about the nuclear arms race, and today we're going to talk about the early 1960s and how the Cold War really, really heated up during those early 1960s. So many of you have, I know you've heard about the Berlin Wall. Now, we talked about the Berlin blockade and the Berlin airlift, and those took place way back in 1947, 48. This is something completely different. The Berlin Wall comes later during the Cold War. So you've got three different Cold War events that center in Berlin. Berlin blockade, Berlin airlift, again, back in 1947, and then the Berlin Wall, which is a little bit, well, it's a lot different, okay? So remember, Stalin with the blockade was trying to keep the Western allies from getting access to West Berlin. He was really trying to take over West Berlin, which was the Allied zone of occupation in the city of Berlin. And it failed because Truman did the airlift and they dropped all the supplies. Berlin Wall is completely different. By the 1960s, Berlin was still a divided city. You had East Berlin, which was communist, and West Berlin, which was free and democratic. The United States was committed to making sure that West Berlin stayed free, capitalistic, and democratic. So imagine Akron, Ohio, guys. Imagine that. Some of you, raise your hand if you live on the east, the east side of Akron, and raise your hand if you live on the, I'm doing that right, the west side of Akron. So Ledbetter, you live on the east side. You went to east. So let's say that Akron's like Berlin. Well, East Akron is all communist, which means you don't have basic rights. You can't go to the mall, Forever 21. You can't go to Chipotle. You can't go get the hookup at the salon. Everything's communist, so the government basically tells you what you can buy, what occupation you can have. You have no economic freedom, very little political freedom. If you tell the government you don't like it, you're put into a gulag somewhere. Over in West Akron, raise your hand if you live on the west side, is the best side. So like Samara Hampton, you live in West Akron. Just across town, life in West Akron is great. You got shops, you got restaurants, you got freedom. You can say and do whatever you want. You can dress the way you want. You don't have to wear them old crusty, dusty communist outfits they wear in East Akron. So Ledbetter, what are you going to do? If it was me, I would just move. I ain't going to stay here in communist East Akron. I'm going to move across town. Now I'm free, right? I can shop. I can dress how I want. I can speak my mind. Turn up. So that's what people did. They just up and they started leaving East Berlin, communist East Berlin, to go to the west side of Berlin, where it was free. And thousands of refugees were escaping to West Berlin each day. So how does this make communism look if people are like running to get out of a communist city to go to the West? It's not good for your propaganda campaign. So the leader of the Soviet Union at this time was not Stalin. He had died in 1953. It was Nikita Khrushchev. Now, Nikita is a man's name in Russian. It's not a lady's name. It sounds like a lady's name. Hello, Nikita. No, it's a man's name, Nikita. He closed the border so people couldn't leave East Berlin, and then he straight up built a wall. Build the wall. Say that in a Russian accent. Build the wall. Build the wall. My head. So, yeah, he built a wall to lock people into East Berlin. Literally, they were locked into a city and they could not leave. So this video is over at this point. You're going to watch a short little YouTube video I put on here on the Berlin Wall, and then I'm going to be back again for the second part of the lesson. Okay? So click on the video on the Berlin Wall, watch it. It's like 5 minutes, and then click back on my lecture.